Okay, we're being recorded. Calling the meeting of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee to order at 6:36 on August the 30th, 2021. We have present on the committee Dan Batten, Fred Thrash, David Douglas, town clerk Matt is with us. Nate, are you officially off the committee now?
I think so, but I don't know
Okay.
what the reality is on that.
All right. Okay. And we're missing a member potentially. We've got to replace Nate, and of course we'll hope that Rich does join us here pretty quickly. So show us the agenda real quick, if you don't mind, Matt.
Yeah, no worries. And I probably owe you guys an American flag too. It looks so epic.
I thought you had a kitty cat, not a dog.
That's not me.
Oh,
That's my yard, I think, somewhere
oh,
up on the hill here.
oh, I see.
Did we want to do the pledge this evening, or we have? Yeah, it's up to you guys, of course.
I'm now let's do it. Go ahead and do it just to keep with tradition.
All right. America.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag.
Flag.
United States
States
of
of
America, and to
to
the
the
republic
for
which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
All right. There is the agenda.
All right. I hope that everybody has read the agenda and looked it over. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, then I have a motion. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda? Or I'm sorry, I was talking about minutes there for a minute. Does anybody have any corrections to the agenda that you would like to make this evening? I believe it's pretty well stated here. Okay. Everybody okay with the agenda? If so, agenda is approved. All right. Do we have anybody present, not on the agenda, who has signed up to speak tonight, Matt?
I did not see any signups for the public comment this evening, but if there's folks who would like to speak, now is the time.
You know what? This is Ann. I mailed in something and I said it, but it was written. Should I say what I did?
I think that would be excellent.
Would that be all right with everybody? It won't be long.
This is the perfect time for that.
I've read the agenda and I really was so impressed with the Embers, the Blizzard of Embers proposal. Whoever wrote that up, it's a wonderful thing. And then number two, I also wanted to mention to anybody present that I wonder if people know that a tax-deductible donation can be made to Green Mountain Falls, although the money cannot be designated for a specific purpose. It can be used for matching funds or other purposes decided by the trustees and the needs of the town. And then third, I was going to mention, or I put it in writing, the Parks and Trails Committee and the ambassadors would be such a great help in the effort to save Green Mountain Falls. Members are out and about hiking and they're all know the town so well. So I just wanted to mention that too, and thank you all for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anyone else? Matt, you said nobody had officially signed up.
Nope.
All right. Okay, now let's move to the to the minutes. Assuming everybody has read the minutes, are there any changes that need to be made to the minutes? If not, do we have a motion to accept the minutes? That would either be Dan or,
I will motion to accept the minutes.
okay, do I have a second?
Second,
Who was that? Fred?
Fred, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Old business. All right, so to update everybody on the notification and evacuation plan that was submitted to the Board of Trustees following our last meeting. I think generally the plan was received well. There were a couple of items that were pointed out that were confusing, or they felt needed a little additional clarification. There were not many points, and most of them are fairly easy to work through. But their approval of the evacuation and notification plan was contingent on us making these revisions. So first of all, in the narrative portion of the evacuation plan, we reference the elementary school as a rally point. However, our map does not have the elementary school on it. So it's, so there's a bit of a discrepancy. In one place we're saying the elementary school is a rally point, and yet the map doesn't show it. So, I mean, in my view, and Matt brought up a good point, if we want the elementary school to be a rally point, then we're probably going to have to get approval from the school, which probably wouldn't be that difficult to do. Or we could leave it as is and have our rally point be as we currently have it, with A and B. So I guess that's the first thing I'd like to clarify is what everybody feels like we should do. Do you want to add the elementary school as a rally point and get the school's permission to do so, or leave the map as is and remove the elementary school as reference in the evacuation instructions?
I have a quick comment, if I could, on the map.
Yes.
It'd be hard to add to the map without totally skewing the scale of the map because of the distance away from town. So I could add something that just, kind of points to it, or, says that it's off, it's, a mile down the road or whatever. But just wanted to point out that.
Okay.
And I also, just second point, I'm pretty familiar with the school there. My kids have all been there recently and still are there. So if we need a volunteer to talk to the school about that, I could do that.
Well, that would just be perfect if you would do that, Nate.
Sure.
So Nate will.
Nate, would you mind asking them if we have to enter into an MOU for use of the grounds?
Sure.
Cool. I imagine it's a yes, but I don't know what kind of agreements have been made with the town previously. We might have this with the school district as it stands.
Okay. And we would just call it a same as what I called the other things, the pedestrian refuge zones, or are we saying it's something different, like a out of town, anyone, I mean, a meeting point, not just for pedestrians. What are we saying there?
That's a good point, because essentially when you're at the elementary school, you're at the highway, right? I mean,
Right.
And in my opinion, the school where it's located in its close proximity to the highway, I don't want to necessarily call it a safety zone just because you can continue to probably go on and be more safe by getting out of there and going to the highway. The benefit that I see in having a location like the school is that it would be a good place to try to get a head count, if you will. You can maybe call it a rally point or a refuge area or an accountability area. Something like that might be better.
Okay.
I don't know.
But I mean, I think all of those are great ideas. I just want to throw in one additional thing. One of the other questions that was asked by the Board of Trustees was this: when people arrive there, who's going to meet them and give them instruction? You know, what is it? How are they going to know what to do once they get to that point?
That's a really good question.
I thought
Does
it
it
was
tie in with the an emergency operations plan? And so like the emergency operations manager would likely have to dictate who these people were in this situation. And this could get kind of convoluted, especially if, like, say, Angie's the emergency manager, but we're deferring to the county for the vast majority of management resources and logistics. They would have to know this exists to know to actually assign someone to that spot. I think we could spell that out in the plan and list it based on the EOP on who those people would be chosen by.
And what kind of time frame are we looking at when we utilize that school? Is it going to be an immediate evac, during the incident, during initial attack phase of an wildfire, or is it something that we could have emergency management actually stand up in Colorado Springs and be able to deploy folks? I don't really see it as being like a really large evacuation area. I kind of see that being somewhere else, but like Matt said, you kind of have to get El Paso County Emergency Management, or sorry, the Pikes Peak Regional Emergency Management involved and see what they think they should, like what size evacuation area they should have.
Yeah, because that should be like a starting point, instead of an official, I don't even know what the terms are at this point, but it could be where we initially send people, and for lack of a better term, safe zone, and then the larger emergency apparatus sends them to a official evac zone or something like that. Like that's
yeah, I would.
Point.
Yeah, I look at it more as like an immediate refuge area, or like you said, a safe zone is actually probably a good word for it, because safety zone means something, but calling it a safe zone, that might be good. And yeah, having it be just an area where people can go and just get away from the flame front, get away from the heat, much like a safety zone.
The question was also asked, was this a place people could drive to? And we said, absolutely not. This was a pedestrian, the two locations that we identified in town were pedestrians, people who were stranded from a vehicle and just needed a safe zone. Is that what we said? I mean, that was my memory.
I don't remember us saying that people couldn't, like, absolutely couldn't drive to the school.
Well, no, I'm talking about the other two places.
What other two places? The lake and what was the other one?
Is it town hall?
I'm like, even I'm forgetting right now, so I'm gonna pull this sucker up real quick because I can't.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay. Yeah, keep going. Refuge zones: Town Hall, Fire Station, and Gazebo Lake Park.
Yep, and then the school just was the one that wasn't included on the map.
Yeah.
Really, the only place that I would say that I would tell people to really try not to drive there would be the pond gazebo. The fire station and the I can't remember the name of the place, the Joyland parking lot. I mean, that can accommodate a lot of vehicles. And then the school is a little bit smaller. The parking lot there is a little bit smaller, but no, I definitely wouldn't want to tell people, no, absolutely, you can't drive there.
Okay. So that means that we would need to redefine what we are currently calling pedestrian refuge zones. That's the way that's on the map.
In addition to that, I think it might be, so I just heard Dan say Joyland as well. In the same way that we would be approaching the school district, it would be wise to approach, what is it? The HDMFF owns Joyland now, I think. So approach the organization about use of their parking lot. That would be an excellent spot, but way better than town hall in terms of actually getting a number of people parked there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many pedestrians are going to be in the area of the school anyway, besides, school kids there? I mean, you don't really have a lot of people walking around on those roads, do you?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also this plan is for the town of Green Mountain Falls, and really the school is in Chipeta Park, technically. So I mean, we're not really addressing the Chipeta Park residents, because those are the ones who I would imagine could actually walk to the school potentially.
And you also are going to have a lot of, if a warning or whatever is going out, you're going to have parents coming to that school to pick up their kids.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if it's during the school year, certainly.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. I'm just kind of imagining wildland fire season being like it used to be 20 years ago, where it was actually just like during the summertime for the most part. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We got to consider, if we're going to be sending a mass of evacuees to an area that could be a school full of kids. And
I was just thinking that when 9/11 happened here in DC, that was the first thing everybody just went to the schools, after the Pentagon had been hit and everything. And I would think that would be the same thing here in Green Mountain.
Yeah. And with it being so close to the highway, I don't know, maybe is it starting to lose its value?
Well, it's beginning to seem to me as if there are more negatives than positives to dedicating or designating it as any sort of rally point or safe zone or anything. I mean, it seems like that's going to be an area of potential congestion anyway, for parents trying to pick up kids, people who are trying to get out and onto the freeway and get away from the fire. So, it could create more problems than it would be benefit.
Yeah, the more I'm imagining this, I'm also seeing that there could potentially be a log jam right there for emergency service vehicles trying to come off the highway and into Green Mountain Falls. So,
right. So it sounds like we're moving more towards the point of that we want to eliminate the school by reference in our evacuation plan as a rally point of any kind.
Yeah, and really, if we're going to try to use it for an accountability or anything like that, I really feel like Pikes Peak Regional Emergency Management needs to be involved in this, because they may already have plans for like a UPass evacuation center and things like that.
Okay.
So could we do just maybe town hall and then reach out to Joyland as like overflow from town hall, and use Gazebo Lake Park as like our initial staging areas, and then refer to the Pikes Peak Regional Management for the further evac plan, and then have that referenced in our plan so people know they'll be redirected as they move around?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
starting point, they have a spot in town that to, rather than having to like go all the way to Woodland Park or wherever the heck they'd end up being sent.
all right, I'll take that, and I'll talk to Jesse and see if they will give approval for us to list Joyland as a rally point along with town hall.
Yeah, and let's remember too, the real intent of trying to establish these zones within Green Mountain Falls. And that's that they would kind of actually be like community safety zones, areas in which people who couldn't actually get out to the highway and get far away could seek refuge or safety actually within the town. So, I mean, that was really the true intent of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to beg too many questions on this, but you got my brain churning on it, Dan. Something along the lines of, like, do we need to plan for the possibility of these people having to stay at these spots for a period of time?
No, what I would envision this is, do you all remember the Paradise video during the Paradise Fire? Where a lot of people, once the evacuation routes were clogged up and nobody else could go anywhere, the people that were left, they sought refuge in like the school area, the large basketball courts, things like that, in areas where essentially they were the man-made safety zones. That's kind of what I envision. I try to preach this a lot to communities that if they can accommodate it, try to think about, if your evac routes are compromised, where are you going to go? And, when you have large parking lots and things like that, where you don't have fuels to burn, where you're going to inhale smoke and things like that, but you're going to most likely be safe from heat. If you've got those areas, don't forget about them. And that's kind of what I was originally trying to think of for our town, is that if people can't, for whatever reason, if they can't make it to the highway, where can they go in the town to get away from, the flames?
I think it might be wise to throw in the word temporary before whatever we end up calling these, and then providing a definition for that time period. Like, you're only going to be here a day or 8 hours or whatever.
Yeah, honestly, you're probably only going to be there for 45 minutes tops.
I think that should be explained, because I don't want it to be misconstrued as like a refuge zone where what I'm envisioning is like FEMA camps.
No.
Cots and getting water and setting people up like that. And I'm like, I know we don't have the resources to do something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, literally, so the definition of a safety zone is literally just a place that you can go that you don't need any kind of protective equipment to save your life, essentially. It doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable or you're going to be able to stay there. It's really a place to go to save your life. And then let the fire front burn through. And then once the fire front burns through, then you leave, if you can. You might be stuck there because if the evacuation routes are compromised. But for the most part, when you're protecting yourself from the fire, it should be a very short duration event.
Okay. My vote, I mean, I know I don't vote, but my thought would be to have that very well communicated and so people understand that.
Well, I think that would not be on the map. It would be more in our narrative instructions.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go a long way with titling it the right way, but I mean.
Yeah, I could change the title on the map to temporary safety zone or whatever.
Yeah.
And explaining it in the narrative. I mean, I'm just imagining, I'm coming from a place of pure ignorance on this, and I'm learning about it right now. And so I'm imagining someone in a panic trying to leave their house. They have the printed evac plan in their hand. I don't think they're going to be as critically thought out with this kind of stuff as we're like sitting comfortably in our houses and apartments talking about it.
Yeah, the only thing I'm hesitant to label it a true safety zone, and that's because safety zones are dependent on, one, the fire behavior, two, how many people and apparatus are actually going to be in that safety zone. So you have to have a minimum amount of distance between, a life and the flame. And then depending on the flame lengths and the wind and all that stuff, if you put 10 people in the Joyland parking lot, that's going to be a great safety zone. If you put 500 people in the Joyland parking lot, it may not be an adequate sized safety zone. So you may still have loss of life. And therefore we don't want to falsely advertise saying, hey, if we get 500 people in here, you're all going to be safe.
Is there any liability with the terms that you use?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't know. If you label something a safety zone, coming from a firefighter's perspective, what that means is that the definition of that for me and for us in the wildland firefighting realm is that it is an area large enough to protect yourself from the fire without needing any kind of protective equipment, you know, without deploying a fire shelter or having to do anything like that. So once you say that, to me, I think, well, that means I'm safe. Normally, when we create safety zones, when we're operating on a wildland fire, we have an idea of how many, you know, firefighters and fire engines and, you know, soup trucks are going to be going to this area. So we know, all right, I know that I'm going to have to put 20 fire engines in this area, and I have a good idea of what the fire behavior is going to look like. So therefore, I determine the size of the safety zone needed based on that information. Whereas with us, you know, we have a good idea of what the fire behavior may look like based on the fuel models surrounding it, but we don't really have an idea of how many people might actually be utilizing it. Or maybe we do. I don't know personally.
So what about temporary refuge zone?
And if you call it a temporary safe zone, that's different from a safety zone.
Oh, that's different. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know,
Yes.
this is one where you kind of almost want to consult a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking that's a good idea is when we're done with this draft is forward it off to Jeff Parker, the town's attorney, for like an hour review. And then he could provide comments and thoughts on either additions, corrections, deletions, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I guess what we need to say is that, look, even if you follow the directions in this evacuation plan, it does not guarantee that you're going to, you know, get through it unscathed.
You know, the worst thing to try to do is wordsmith something as a committee during committee. So I think what we really need to do is kind of get some consensus here on, you know, the direction. Offline, we'll write it and circulate it, maybe, you know, for approval or final revision in the next meeting. In the meantime, get an attorney's review. How does everybody feel about that?
I think that's a good plan.
I mean, and we can, if you have some thoughts on what to call it, you know, just email me or something. I'll take the responsibility at this point of making these changes and with your input. So if you have a thought of what we should call it, email that to me.
Okay.
And I may be speaking prematurely because I haven't stood up the wildfire committee yet. But one of our tasks is to discuss evacuation, and there will be other fire departments all the way from Brett Lacey all the way down to some of the other smaller towns. And this might be a topic that you can run past other folks for input as well.
Yeah.
Just an offer.
Thanks. We want to tap into, you know, we want to be part of the whole network and tap in and be consistent with, you know, with the whole firefighting and rescue effort and all that.
Okay.
You know,
Perhaps one of you could send me who to invite to the first meeting.
well,
If
since I'm the chair of the committee, I guess.
okay.
You can send it to me, and I may say the best person for this might be Dan or Rich or whatever. But I think at least as the chair, I probably should.
All right. But David, I don't have your email address. Could I just give you mine right now?
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
it's P Rochette. So it's PROCHETTE at ppacg.org.
PPACG.org.
G.org.
Okay.
And it's Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Paul. That works.
David, I know I won't be around necessarily, but with my background in emergency operations and continuity of operations stuff, I'm more than happy to edit a draft, even if I'm not working for the town.
Okay. Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that.
Yep.
We do have a couple of things that really don't require a lot of discussion. They're just matters of fact. one of the trustees pointed out that on the map, we show El Paso Avenue listed as East El Paso Avenue, and it should be South El Paso Avenue. Nate, Nate, are you still there?
Yeah, I'll double check that.
How dare you, Nate?
So
Street names are quite the subject in this town.
yeah, well, that seemed to be a real hot topic there when it was brought up. That it,
Okay, I'll double check.
yeah. The other thing was how to use the map. You know, how do you know which map to refer to?
So when Rich and I had talked about this originally, we started to talk through, I don't know, you know, what the map should say, when the particular plan should be used. Really, there's only three options, right? There's all going north, northwest, all going south, southeast, or splitting up. But we thought it was a little bit too cumbersome or too much information maybe to put on the map. Like, if the fire is coming from this direction, do this. We just thought it was better to kind of lay out the three options as A, B, and C. And then those options could be referenced by whoever is, you know, in command or whatever of the actual evacuation operation. Then they could broadcast, you know, evacuation plan C is being used to evacuate the town. And then, you know, that can be accompanied by a pretty simple explanation, probably even without a map, but the map just kind of, you know, is there for extra reference if necessary. But in general, the map can be explained. The evacuation direction can pretty much be explained by a sentence. But, you know, the map just kind of exists to reinforce that, I guess, in case.
Okay. I do get the point of the trustee, and I don't remember which one it was, that in the moment when you're about to consult this map and try to figure out which one to use, are you going to be your most rational self? And so in that moment, in this map, when you're looking at them, should there be something that says, you know, in case fire is to the south, or in case fire is to the north, or, you know, something like that. Is there room to put that on?
I certainly can add that language, whatever anyone thinks is helpful.
How much time do you have? How much time do you have? How much time goes by between when you know a fire is going one way or the other? I mean,
that is very dynamic. So basically, when I look at this plan, and I think about the scenario in which this will be most applicable, is if you've got a few hours, right? If you have something that's at the bottom of Ute Pass, and it's not traveling too quickly, or you have something that's coming down out of the forest and you need to evacuate the community, but you want to do this plan. Basically what this does is it does a good job of splitting up the town so that not everybody is trying to use the same egress point, right? Now, if this is an incident where, say this is an incident that I'm rolling up on, I'm the incident commander of this, and I need to evacuate the town now. Pretty much all this is going to kind of go out the window, because when I pull the trigger on, I'm not doing pre-evacs, I'm not doing any kind of notices. I'm telling law enforcement that we need to get everybody out absolutely right now, this kind of goes out the window. This is more of the plan for when you've got a little bit of time to think, and you think, all right, I live on this side of this town, so I need to head out of town this way. I live on that side of town, I'm going to head out of town that way. And that way the egress points are less congested. Honestly, when the fire is really in the town, I guess what people need to know is throw the map and the plan in the fire and just do whatever your instincts tell you to do to get away from danger. So in the situation where, like, say, the Paradise Fire, where that fire was so rapidly moving, you know, they had time to pull the trigger on evacuations earlier. You know, one of the lessons learned on that fire was that they didn't predict how rapid the spread was on that fire. And because we are reactive, and because we're at least smart enough to learn from those lessons, when we do have a fire in the right situation, the right fuel conditions, the right weather, and then the right location where we feel that the fire will most likely travel well, you know, we can then pull the trigger on this evacuation sooner than later. And that's truly the key, is try to get people as much time as possible. If they have time, they can follow the plan. If they don't have time, they just need to follow their instincts for the most part.
Okay. Can we, in the narrative, rather than put it on the map itself, should we include it in the narrative portion and just say, follow map A if, follow map B if, follow map C if, and say, or follow the instruction of the officials who are directing evacuation at the time?
Yeah, I would probably say follow the plan unless told otherwise by, you know, emergency responders.
Okay.
Because if people are evacuating based solely on just the sirens and they don't really have any kind of direction, you know, this is the only plan they're going to have.
Yeah.
If they're being directed by reverse 911 or a code red or something like that, there's going to be some direction in it. Leave the town through the north exit. Leave the town through the south exit.
Are the sirens just for, I mean, if you have some time to evacuate, do you still blow the sirens even if you have time? The fire isn't imminent. In other words, is there a difference there?
You know, I don't know that we've discussed an actual like plan, well, like 2 siren bursts or 3 siren bursts. What I would imagine is that the siren means get out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think at this point, we're at such an early stage. The thought process is the siren is simply a method of notification, of saying, you know, we have a wildfire risk and hazard for the community. It's time to evacuate. I think there needs more definition that goes into this. That was the second part of the trustees' request, was that we speak to the fire department to coordinate the notification side, and also, you know, we'll need to look at the things like you said, Dan, the reverse 911, you know, all these other methods and forms of communication with people other than just a siren.
Oh yeah, the Pikes Peak Regional Emergency Management, the El Paso County, I haven't talked with them yet, but most likely they've already got polygons set up. They already have those systems in place. I'm assuming most counties have that. Really, the intent and the idea behind the sirens was because we have an older demographic, because we have an area with poor cell phone coverage, because basically we've got some Swiss cheese with how to reach people. We thought, well, maybe a siren, a low-tech method of notifying people in conjunction with the other high-tech stuff, with social media, with Code Red, with Reverse 911, at least maybe we could reach that many more people. That was really the intent of the siren, the low-tech method.
Okay.
I would suggest not including anything about the siren until maybe next year in a revised plan, since we don't have approval for them. They're not funded yet. I don't know if getting the hopes up for people on that early on is the best decision, but that's just my 2 cents.
And now that they're putting that sky view, that observatory up there, who do we talk to about attaching a siren to that building?
Well, that would be the Historic Green Mountains Falls Foundation.
I mean, it could be a really good location to just
Absolutely, I agree.
put a siren up there.
Okay, so from a map standpoint, Nate, since that's your baby, you don't have to put anything more on there, but we do need to correct the street address for El Paso. And we need to rename from pedestrian refuge zone. We need to come out with something different to call Town Hall, Fire Station, and the Joyland. So I guess you really don't need to do anything right now except make that one change, and I'll feed into you the other changes that need to be made before we go to a final.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything that we need to continue to discuss here with regard to the revisions to the evacuation plan? Do we know somebody at the fire department that we can also get to help, review this and sign off? Dan?
So I'm a volunteer, but I'm a probie, and I can take this packet to Steve, Fire Chief Steve, tomorrow.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Just say, hey, this is draft at this point. We'd just love to get some input, your suggestions, and see what he has to say.
Okay, I'll print it up and take it to him tomorrow morning.
Okay, perfect. So tell him it's still a work in process, that has
Sure.
not been, is not in final form and approved by the committee.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks. All right.
And Fred,
then let's move.
if
Sorry.
Steve has any questions about it too, you can also call me as well.
Sure. What's your last name, Nick?
Nate, you were talking
Nate,
about
I
Nate.
mean, my bad. What was your last name, Nate?
Nate is Nate Scott.
Scott. Got it.
All right, let's move to the Cusp grant and fuels mitigation. I think I saw Adrian. Are you still with us, Adrian?
Still here.
All right, so for everybody's benefit, the 53-acre grant is now activated. Everything we've got the letter, we've got everything. It is approved and we are ready to put boots on the ground. Is that correct, Adrian?
Yeah, that's correct. So we're kind of in the planning stages still. We did get the approval, we got the letter, we're good to go. What we're looking for this year is 13 acres added to the fuel break with 3 acres of personal property for private parcels is what we're looking at for this year.
All right, hold on a minute. I'm gonna write that down.
Okay.
So out of the 53, what have we got?
For this year, let me find it in the grant timeline here, just so I'm not telling you anything incorrect.
And when you say this year, are you talking about 12 months from this point, or are you talking about calendar year 2021?
Calendar year 2021.
All right.
So we are looking at, and I just had it earlier. Of course, I didn't think to do this while I was not having to talk. But yeah, it's 13 acres on the fuel break with 3 acres of private parcel. And I believe in the timeline, we have those be finished by November.
So when you say the 13 acres on the fuel break, what are you talking about?
So I mean, kind of the big fuel break around town that we've talked about implementing. So a big fuel break around the entire town of Green Mountain Falls. I know that there's been a lot of talk about continuing the work along Thomas Trail.
Are we planning on doing the Iona work in this?
We can do that.
I think I
How
would
many
agree.
acres is that?
Oh man, probably only 2 to 3 acres. But yeah, I think I recall the last meeting that instead of leaving it up to chance and trying to find folks, I think we wanted to include that in the.
Yeah. Yep, I agree, Dan. That was my memory as well. And I think I even talked to, when I talked to Michelle a couple of times, I kind of said, you know, we definitely want to make sure that that gets included. So that's why I wanted to be real clear tonight, since we've got everybody on the phone, as to where our priorities are going to be and how we're going to coordinate, you know, the priorities. And I think there's a high level of expectation within the town government, the board of trustees, you know, the citizenry, that we make this such a big deal. Everybody, you know, I think it would be important for us to do that just from a optics standpoint.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where we get our most of our value is kind of PR with that.
So
Could I ask a question or a suggestion? This is Ann. Could the letter be posted so the public can read it, so that they get it, you know, put it on the town?
and excuse me, I think that's a good question, but we need to kind of stay on track here with the you know, how this is going to be done. We're going to be talking in a few minutes in new business about communicating with people in terms of the availability of the grant, how we let people know. But right now we need to sort of, as we've got Adrian on here, you know, get a firm plan of how we're going to.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure. Sorry.
Okay. So how many acres is in the Iona?
I'm only guessing 2 to 3.
Okay. So out of 13, out of 13 acres that you want to include out of this year, Adrian, you'd still have, let's say, 10 acres to put somewhere else, put the funding to somewhere else in the fuel break. So would that be on on Thomas Trail?
Yeah, so the way that this is going to have to work out, just using our estimated cost per acre, which is the number that we submitted when we wrote this grant, which is $3,463.10 an acre, is what we're estimating. I'm still working with my office to get an exact number of what it cost us to get those 4 acres at Thomas Trail earlier, so that we can have a more concrete number. But for the time being, using that 3463 and change, I think is a good place to start. And what I'll come up with is with the $16,975 that the town of Green Mountain Falls has set aside, that allows for 8 acres on town of Green Mountain Falls property for this year. So the other 5 acres would need to come from Historical Green Mountain Falls Foundation, who also has, I believe it's $26,000 over the life of the grant. So
let me make sure I understood that. So if you're going to try to do 13 acres this year, a portion of that 13 acres includes the Historical Green Mountain Falls as well?
Correct.
Okay, so you've got to apportion that 13 acres between the town of Green Mountain Falls land and Historic Green Mountain Falls.
As of right now, like I said, I'm hoping to get some more concrete numbers. Our office just wasn't able to get to it today, but hoping to get some more concrete numbers so I can actually look at it and use real numbers. But using the estimated price per acre, yeah, the 16,975 that Green Mountain Falls has put aside for 2021 is only going to cover 8 acres worth of work.
8 acres. Okay, all right.
So then that other 5 that we would need to hit our 13 for the goal of the timeline would have to come in on historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation land, since they also have 29,700 in the game.
Okay, so with our 16, we'll call it $17,000.
Mhm.
That would get us about 8 acres.
Mhm.
And we were already saying we want to use 2 to 3 of that on Iona. So that would leave, we'll call it 5 for other GMF, and I guess 5 to the historic HGMFF, right?
Yep.
Is that the way it breaks down?
Yeah. And
Okay.
this wall, I mean, it'll kind of depend on once we have contractors come in, look and bid. Once we see what it's cost in the past, we might be able to fudge the numbers a little bit. But I think for the sake of planning right now, I think that's a safe place to start. And it was just right before the meeting, but my GIS person was able to get me a map with a few sample polygons for proposed project areas, which I did email to the whole group. So I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to check your email. I think I sent it like literally at maybe 6:26 this evening. But it shows how we can, depending on how you guys want to work this, it's just a couple of different routes that we can take. We can either start, we'll just say 5 and 5 for right now. Excuse me. Start 5 acres on the eastern edge of Thomas Trail and work our way east, and 5 acres on the northern edge of where Wallace Reserve ended and work our way north. And then eventually over the 3 years, hopefully connect those. Or we can start in the middle and work our way out to connect. I mean, kind of however you guys want to see fit. It'll also take some ground truthing. Doing this initial mapping is all just using satellite info. So we get out there on the ground and some areas just aren't workable. Maybe some areas are super workable and easy, and we can kind of change up our plan from there. But that map does kind of show a couple, kind of theoretical plans of attack.
Okay. Does the town need to execute any sort of document with their commitment of the 17,000 before the work can get started?
I believe they already have. Michelle told me she has that signed already.
Okay, good. So, so you're not waiting on anything from the town of Green Mountain Falls as far as, getting started?
I believe all we're waiting on right now is just coming up with a plan.
Do you need any involvement from us on the plan?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's wholly up to you guys what we do. This is your committee. Unless you don't want to, I mean, we can try to work out a plan. Probably what I would do is connect Thomas Trail on the eastern edge of the boundary, work east, Wallace on the northern edge of the boundary, work north, and keep going that way over the 3 years till we meet is what I would do personally. But I mean, it's your guys's to do with as you will.
Okay, so I'd like to hear from some of the other committee members then. Dan, Fred, did Rich ever join us? Do we know?
Oh, Rich emailed me and said he wasn't going to be able to make it this evening.
Oh, okay. All right, so Dan, Fred, and Nate, and even you, Matt, I'd like to hear from y'all on kind of what your thoughts are on the priorities, on how we want our 8 acres to get used.
Well, I'll jump in since no one else is talking. I think we were talking about optics with the focus on Iona Scott, and I think I'd really like to see that targeted since we've already spent survey money on that as well. But I mean, if I'm understanding this correctly, 8 acres total, 2 to 3 acres for us to use on town property. I mean, that would be prime for that spot, in my opinion. But just throwing that out.
Let me clarify. we've got, what he's trying to do, Matt, is given that the town has committed $17,000, budgeted that amount for this year, what Adrian's trying to do based on his estimate of the cost per acre, he's saying, how many acres do we need to do on the town-owned land in order to expend and burn up those budgeted funds in 2021? If I understood what he said correctly, that's about 8 acres. Okay. So if we do Iona and it's 3 acres, we still have 5 acres that we can put somewhere on town-owned land.
I guess I misunderstood. I thought it was the 5 acres would have to go to historic Green Mountain Falls property and not town property.
No.
Okay, I misunderstood. So we have a full 8 acres. And so we could do a portion of Iona, or do the entirety of Iona then, and then tackle that portion of Thomas then. That would be my thought. If we have that 8, we could do what, 4 or 5 acres on Thomas Trail and then 2 to 3 acres at Iona. We hit a residential community area and then hit a little further out.
Okay. Yes.
And I just want to make it clear, that's not over the life of the grant. We're saying 8 acres this year. In 2022, 2023, Green Mountain Falls has also, we haven't gotten a letter saying they're committed because of the way that you can only
budget.
Allocate funds for the year. But we're expecting 15 grand. So that'll be another 7 to 8 acres, depending on prices that we get for 2022, 2023. Cool. So this is just the initial attack or initial phase for 2021.
Yeah, for an initial phase, targeting Iona, Scott, and Thomas Trails, I think that would be an excellent, great start.
So are you saying, Matt, that you want to do Thomas from the eastern boundary of where we've already started so that we're connecting that now, or start in the center and work our way west to connect with it in the third year?
I would defer to your expertise in selecting exactly where to start. I was thinking more quantity rather than area. And so if you had a recommendation, I would defer to that.
Okay.
I was looking at your map real quick too, trying to figure out where you're talking about. So,
yeah, so I believe,
in relation to that?
Let me see if I pull this up here. I would say start where we had finished up on Thomas Trail. So that polygon that says 7.87 acres.
Yeah.
I was making these thinking that we'd dump all 8 acres into Thomas Trail. So just imagine these, but 2 to 3 acres smaller. So I would say start with that one that's 7.87 acres, except we can trim it down to make it closer to 5, depending on how much Iona takes up. And then down here on the bottom right-hand corner, that one that's 5.17, start there for the historic Green Mountain Falls land. And then just as time goes on, keep working to get those two to meet so that we have some connectivity in the middle is what I would suggest doing.
I love that. Because then we could start tackling more connection in 2022 and 23 for the life of the grant, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Correct.
Yeah, I love that. Because then we get a little bit of both worlds working.
Yeah.
In the community and outside on the trails. That's my thought.
Okay. So I guess the next step for me, I suppose, would be I need to get out on the ground and start flagging and GPSing these areas so that we can start figuring out acres that we want to allocate for Thomas Trail versus Iona. So we need to get that figured out. I'm pretty swamped this week. I may have time next week to get out. And it's not 100% necessary for anyone to join me. But, if anyone on the committee wants to join and walk around with me, we can kind of look at this and tackle this as a team as we're going around. So if you guys would like to join, I can let you know when I'm planning on being out there.
Yeah, Adrian, shoot me an email. I may even be able to come out while I'm on shift, since it technically is in El Paso County.
Okay.
Dan, what do you think about that plan?
I fully support the idea of continuing on with the existing mitigation and not going into the middle and starting to work back out.
Okay.
One, if you already are going into an area where you've already mitigated part of it, it makes the ingress and egress a little bit easier. So yeah, that makes perfect sense to just continue on with the areas that are already started and just make them bigger. And then I also agree with Matt that if we can fit the Iona project in, I don't think that we get as much buffer impact from the Iona project as we may from the actual surrounding boundary and the Thomas Trail. But I think what we lose in that, we gain in public relations and people seeing what we're doing. So, and it is a valuable project. It's just, you know, it's valuable in multiple ways.
I do think it will go a long way to public relations and getting people sort of saying, oh, wow, finally they're doing something. And I think by doing that, we can also build on that in getting people to start becoming more involved on their own properties and help, and perhaps utilizing the grant money that's available through Cusp on a cost sharing basis. So I do think that's a positive. Fred, any thoughts from you?
I'd like to go out with Nate when he starts flagging trees, because I'm not really sure what exactly we're talking about right now, because this is my first involved meeting.
You don't know everything
flagging
already, Fred? What the heck, man?
but I could catch up fast. But yeah, I would actually enjoy that. If and that was Nate who's going to flag him, correct?
No, it's Adrian. Is it Adrian?
Is it Adrian?
Yeah, it's Adrian.
Oh, Adrian. Could I have your number, Adrian?
Fred, I can share all this contact info with you over email after or tomorrow if you'd like.
Yes. Yeah, that would be great. So
Yeah.
then I could answer your question next meeting about that.
Yeah, I'll get that stuff to you.
Because
Adrian,
I don't know enough to make a comment on the mitigation.
Adrian, are you aware that we had the Colorado State Forestry Service come out and flag trees?
No, I was not. Where did they do that?
On the Iona land?
On Iona.
Were they flagging take trees or leave trees or boundary, or what were they flagging?
They were flagging take trees. And I don't know if you recall, but the whole reason that we called those guys was to try to make sure that there would be no, that with the mitigation efforts, that we weren't going to be releasing any kind of tussock moth or beetles or anything that would, basically we wanted all the knowledge that we could get to come up with a plan of how we were going to actually get rid of the wood and things like that.
And what did they say?
I believe the report said that it would be fine to burn it as long as the people who were taking the wood for firewood, they had to be Green Mountain Falls residents.
Okay. I mean, you know, that makes sense. I mean, those insects, I mean, they're pests obviously, but they're native to the area. So trying to eradicate them entirely is an uphill battle. So yeah, as long as they stay where they came from,
yeah,
I wouldn't think it'd be an issue. So.
Adrian, do you feel like you have enough information from us then to go ahead and initiate your actions?
I believe so. Did I overhear that you guys surveyed that Iona property or that Iona lot?
No.
It's the wrong term and should have said flagging.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think we engaged the volunteer surveyor. I can't remember the gentleman's name that was a retired surveyor. We haven't asked him to actually try to survey anything, right?
I spoke
No.
with him and he is not in service.
Okay.
So do we need to get a survey done, Adrian?
I don't think we need to get a professional survey done. That's just a lot of money a lot of times and a pretty long wait list. If there's anyone that knows, at least has a, kind of an idea of where that property goes from town-owned property to private property, that can meet me out there when I do get out there to flag and get these boundaries and GPS to see how many acres we're looking at. That would be helpful, just so I kind of have an idea of where we're going and not just kind of walking around aimlessly hoping that I'm on town-owned property. That would be beneficial, but I don't think we need full-on survey. Because what we can do is once we have it GPSed and flagged, we can then communicate with the private property owners that are adjacent to it and kind of just say, yo, like, I threw up some flags. This is kind of what we're thinking. We're going to mitigate inside the flags. Do you have any problems with this? And kind of talk to them and see if there's any discrepancies over where the property lines are. And if they have a problem with it, we can move them in, 10 feet or whatever their complaint is, is what I would say.
Nate, as the resident cartographer and expert on property lines, I think. So if you could get Nate involved, I think you'd have the right guy helping you with that.
Yeah, I could come prepared with maps and everything. Yeah, I should be available to meet when you want to, Adrian. Just let me know.
Okay. And I have like a really rough, we use county parcel data a lot in our GPS system that sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. So I kind of have a little bit kind of an idea of where we're going, but having someone with a better idea, I think would be beneficial. And what I can do is, once I figure out when I'm going to be able to get out there, I can just shoot an email to the entire group, and then whoever wants to join, we can join and make a field trip out of it and go from there.
Nice.
If you can dig it.
Yes.
So Adrian, we're going to leave it up to you to be proactive in the communication, to include Dan, Fred, and Nate, to let them know when you're coming so that y'all can all work together.
Sure. I mean, like I said, I can just shoot an email in the group email. Are all you guys included in the group email?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we should be in the entire group in that email.
Okay. Yep.
And then David, if we're thinking we're going to do this plan right now, and we're wanting to use your property for access again, would that be all right with you if we need to send you an updated LTE, or did you want us to try and find a different?
Nope. I'm happy for y'all to use the same route you used before.
Okay.
Do you need? Do we need to execute a new agreement?
We would need a new agreement. It would just basically be, I would change the dates on the one that you've already signed and send it back to you, have you sign it and send it back.
Yeah, that's no problem. Just send me whatever and we'll sign it. I'm happy for y'all to use our property.
Okay, cool. Appreciate that. That's hugely helpful.
We actually have some stairs now, by the way.
You've always had stairs, haven't you?
Yeah, our whole deck there that's being rebuilt.
Yeah.
Almost complete.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's getting exciting. Long time coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what about how many acres do we have available for private landowners on a cost sharing basis that we can do in 21? Do you have a number on that?
In 21, what we're shooting for is 3 acres.
3 acres.
Really with property size and kind of the interest that we've got in the past, I think it might be a little bit ambitious. It sounds low, but I think it's a good starting point. 3 acres.
You already have people lined up for that?
Michelle said that she has some people that she needs to call back. So there has been some interest. We're kind of working through right now. I think what we're going to have to do for this grant, just because the cost of acres right now is just, it's super high. I mean, every bid that we're getting for other projects that we're working on, where we're expecting, $1,900 to maybe $2,200 an acre, we're getting like $3,800 an acre dollar bids. So trying to keep that in mind and trying to plan with that, we're kind of leaning towards having to do a 70-30 cost share instead of the 60-40 where the private property owners are paying 70, we're paying 30. Right. Just because our grantors, I mean, you can tell them all you want. This is what this work costs in this area. It's tough ground. They don't want to hear it. They only want to pay a certain amount per acre. So we may have to have the grant pay a little bit less and the property owners pay a little bit more. But we do have some people that have been showing interest. We're just trying to work out internally what our plan of attack is. I'm not sure if she has the full 3 acres spoken for or not, though.
Okay.
We've had
Well,
several people.
we need to, one of the things that we'll be talking about here next, I think, is the communication that the program of communication that we want to start having with the residents to inform them. And I think what Ann was trying to ask a few minutes ago was, how can we best inform people that this is available? Because I think we do want to form a queue or a line of people who are saying, I want to participate. I want my property in, so that you guys can at least plan that, if not this year, next year.
For sure. I mean, I would rather be in a position where we're turning people away than begging for people to do work on their property. Absolutely. I think, what we found in the past is neighbor to neighbor communication is the best way to spread word. Doing the work on Iona, I think, is going to go a long way. I think that's going to make a lot of people start asking a lot of questions. Then once people start asking those questions, they're kind of more receptive to you saying, hey, this is what you can do too, especially when it's in an area that's so visible, you can see what it looks like when it's done. It's not complete clear cut. It's not like a bomb went off. You can make it look nice. That's going to get a lot of attention. And then from there, it's kind of the town hall having the information that they can give to people, which town hall needs any information from me or Michelle, we can give that to you so that you guys have the correct information to give to residents. And also, I mean, if you guys are out in town and you're talking to anyone, neighbor to neighbor communication is far and away the best way to spread information.
Okay.
The second best way being fire department. But in a number of social studies, number one has been far and away neighbor to neighbor communication is the most trusted form of contact. And then after that is fire department. Okay. Unfortunately, me being someone that, most people have never seen, saying I'm with a nonprofit that most people have probably never heard of, doesn't go a long way. It's better for you guys to talk to your neighbors than direct them to us, and we can give them the information.
Okay. I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yep.
I guess it could go to both of you guys, but I suppose, should we queue up the people who have expressed interest from the Iona outreach first, or just kind of lump them in with everybody who's requesting this? Because we've had 3 or 4 express interest in that area.
Have we turned those people to Michelle? Have we said contact Michelle Connolly?
I think for 2 of them so far, but 2 of them, no. I would say I would need to touch base with two of them.
Okay, so I would say let's get that going as quickly as possible. And I would share their information with Michelle. And so maybe Michelle wants to be proactive and reach out to them and say, hey, we're going to be right there. This is the time to do it.
I'll do that tomorrow.
Green Mountain Falls, everybody still has to go to the post office?
Yeah.
Would something outside the post office be effective, Adrian, in your experience there?
It can be. It's not a terrible idea. It's not. I mean, it's not like it's going to waste a lot of resources to put up, single thing outside the post office. From my experience through this work and just personally, when I go to the post office, I don't care how long the line is. I'm personally not reading every flyer on the bulletin board. So that's just kind of me. So I kind of, of course, we all think everyone else is kind of similar to us, right? So I don't know how many people are actually reading those things, but it doesn't hurt anything to put up a page. In the post office, the local watering hole, a couple restaurants have a flyer up somewhere. It doesn't hurt. What we try to stay away from is doing the mailers or water bill type things where it's just the amount of money that you're spending really isn't worth what you're getting back. But having a few up, I think, is fine.
A sandwich board as opposed to a little poster.
What's that?
A sandwich board, a big thing outside.
Yeah.
To catch people's eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to wasn't Sunday King supposed to be organizing a town meeting or something on this, or not specifically on the Cusp grants, but just getting neighbors together and talking about fire mitigation. Did that ever come to pass?
Well, that was a request made by the trustees in the last meeting, that's the first meeting of the month, when we presented the evacuation plan. That was one of the things that they requested, was that we put into our program of planning for education the sort of town hall meetings or gatherings of residents where we have a speaker come in and talk about it.
I thought that I thought I heard Mayor Newberry specifically talk to Sunday and say, we need a town hall meeting. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well, if it's happened, I don't know anything about it.
No, nothing like that has happened. And I mean, the mayor can certainly give certain directions to trustees, but I mean, even scheduling and all of that stuff would have to go through administration anyway.
And it hasn't, so.
Not that
Okay.
I'm aware of. I certainly haven't planned it, so I haven't heard anything about it.
Or have I?
It was done when we did the comprehensive plan, that, because Adrian was there. It was a great meeting, and they walked properties after that. See, that's been a couple years ago,
Yeah, that was 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
or 3 years ago. Yeah, and it was at the Sally Bush Center, and there was food, and you and Michelle and everybody were there talking, and it was wonderful. And there just isn't any. Well, see, that was a comprehensive plan, and Dick Bratton was very active leading all that, getting it going. So
Okay, well, clearly that is something that we need to have on our agenda of
fire, yeah, the fire.
communications and training for our community. And so, we're in the early stages of putting together a communications plan, which I want to get to with Carolyn here in a few minutes. But we need to sort of kind of wrap up on our Cusp grant and activities on that before we move to the communication.
And I'll just say, once I do find out those numbers for what it costs us to work the rest of Thomas Trail, because I think it's going to be pretty comparable. It's all going to be lop and scatter, tough to get into, tough to walk. I think those 4.3, acres that we did is going to be a good idea of what it's going to cost moving forward. I can let you guys know and kind of make an updated, maybe we'll be able to do 9 acres instead of 8, but I'll let you guys know once I find that out. And I'll shoot an email to everyone when I'm planning on getting out in the field.
So what's your timeline right now, Adrian, in terms of actually getting Sawyers in there and starting work?
With how expensive all the acres are right now, the contractors are equally as busy, so it's been pretty tough. I know we want to do it as soon as we can. Like I was saying, here in the application, we have 13 acres, September through November. So we would want to get in there quick. So I'm hoping either this week or next week to get out there and get everything lined out to get to the point that we can start working on requests for proposals, sending those out to contractors, getting contractors to take a look at it, and hopefully get some bids coming in and get going as soon as we can.
Okay. Very good. So you're thinking maybe by mid-September? Or you think it'd be more like late September?
It'd probably be late September. We normally try to have, we announce the opportunity, have a show me tour a week and a half later, then give contractors 2 weeks to bid, since it can take a little while to come up with those bids sometimes. So I would guess probably late September, early October.
Okay.
Right now, and that's don't hold me to anything. That's just what I'm guessing right now, and then it'll be up in the air as to when contractors can be able to start.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Do the lawyers, do the GMF lawyers have to look at all this too?
No.
Okay.
If Angie has already signed off on the contract with Cusp, then we're done on that part.
Okay.
Yeah, really, the only thing we need to do is share reports about the work with admin. It's nothing the lawyer needs to deal with.
Right. So that gives you a timeline, or Matt, or maybe the urgency of getting back before you leave at the end of this week to these property owners along Iona who have expressed interest, to make sure that we try to get those people together with Michelle, within this week, because I think, we have those property owners that want to be included. Then Adrian's going to be, he needs to be able to figure that into the project scope.
It's a high priority for me, so I'm gonna tackle it tomorrow, and then we're gonna discuss this more a little later, but I think Nate is possibly willing to step into the secretary role. And so I'll loop him in. I don't want to sorry, Nate, if I pulled the cat out of the bag a little early, but including him and looping him in with the info I have. So that way it's at least carried on past when I'm gone.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you're leaving at the end of this week?
Oh yeah, surprise. So I guess we can announce it now. I got hired to be the executive director of a chamber of commerce out on the Eastern Plains. And so I had to put in my 2 weeks a week or so ago, and my last day with the town of Green Mountain Falls is actually September 3rd, this Friday. They wanted me out there as soon as possible, and it just seemed like such an awesome opportunity to lead my own organization. I know I'm not smiling right now just because I'm tired. I am happy about it. But I'm really excited to see if I can actually do this or not, because I've always been the second guy. I've never been the guy. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, good for you, man. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
With knowing that, maybe, and I promise after this, man, I'll be quiet and let you guys get on with your meeting. Maybe I could try to get out there Wednesday afternoon. I'm not sure who's available Wednesday afternoon, but I might be able to make that work. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I can make time for it. This is high priority stuff for me. So.
And fish is this weekend, so I want everything off my plate for them.
Okay, thanks a lot, Adrian. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Looking forward to getting that project underway, obviously.
Us too.
Thanks for joining us tonight as well.
Of course, thank you guys for listening to me. My computer's about to die, and I left my charger in the baby's room, so I think I'm going to have to leave the meeting. But I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and I'll shoot out an email probably tomorrow with some information on when I'll be out there, hopefully Wednesday.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being awesome, Adrian. It's a pleasure working with you, man.
Hey, you too. Good luck out there on the Eastern Plains.
Thank you. No trees.
All right.
Folks, I wanted to say I'm going to take off, but anybody feel free to shoot me an email.
Well, I'm going to send you an email so that you'll have my contact information.
Okay, that'll be great. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Sure. My
Pleasure to
pleasure.
meet you.
Same here. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. So I don't know how many of you, Dan, are you still there? Yes, I see you, Nate. You've probably heard Carolyn Bauer's name in the past. Carolyn's been very proactive with town of Green Mountain Falls, both in the government and with the citizens at large, primarily around just communication in general. And I would say she's really apolitical. She really tries to walk the line of not being pro or against any particular thing. She's just trying to be very fair and honest reporting, fair and balanced reporting. So Carolyn and I have had a chance to talk a lot recently about the whole issue of she's become very interested in fire mitigation and the danger that it represents for our community. She wants to know how to be more involved, how to help, how to inform people. And so through the conversations that we've had, she came up with this idea of the Blizzard of Embers campaign, which I think is genius. She really has she put a lot of thought behind this in terms of how we could use it to get our message. In our committee meetings in the past 2-3 meetings, we've talked about the need for education. And Dan and Rich both have, I think, Dan, you just sent me your survey that you did on the risk assessment for Zone B. Rich has been working on his. I don't know how far along he is, but that's really rich data that points to the fact that we really do need to communicate and let people know at large the big message, but we also need to target people specifically and say, here are some areas that you on your specific property could really, help benefit the town and yourself by tackling. So I'm going to stop talking and let Carolyn take over and sort of talk about this concept so that we can decide, because I think there's some decisions that need to be made tonight in terms of how do we want to go forward. Carolyn has suggested that maybe we want to have our own Facebook page. Is that right, Carolyn? Our own web page or
Website.
Website. Or do we want to just piggyback on the town of Green Mountain Falls? So anyway, those are the kind of things that we really need to start moving ahead, talking about messaging, frequency, topic, all those kind of things. And Carolyn's most graciously agreed to really be helpful to us and to the committee and getting that work done. So Carolyn?
Okay. Okay, I just want to say that as I told David, this was just some thoughts that I put down on paper, and I was really anxious to have the committee and you two, anybody who's interested in giving their own thoughts. These are my thoughts. I don't own this. I want more people, to be involved with this. This is not really me. This is something that I want the committee or the trustees or whoever to be behind. I'm happy to. I have a lot of ideas for articles, but the thing is that does everybody understand why we're calling it the blizzard of embers? Everybody's familiar with that term. I just thought that this was a really good way to visualize when you talk about optics and things like that. I think everybody can sort of visualize that. So, and I thought that, if we wanted to have posters made up, you were talking about, getting word out and neighbor to neighbor and all that. Posters could be made up, I think, using artwork that incorporates this theme. So that's it. But I think the main thing is that something that struck me at a meeting, I think it was Michelle Connolly said, or Adrian, that you have to tell people over and over and over again about something before they will change their behavior. And I think this is true of fire mitigation. It looks like to me that they're going to get the word, and it just takes an almost in-your-face kind of approach to do it. Matt, I was dying to ask you, were you involved with the development of the town website, or was that somebody else?
That was somebody else. I have many thoughts about that.
You mean about my proposal or about?
No, about the town's website.
Yeah, I think that, the reason I asked was simply because I didn't want to don't want us to go stepping on anybody's toes or anything like that. But I really believe that the plan that I have friends in Cape May who have a website that they list several, they run articles about, sort of like I do on the Facebook page. And people are notified that a new article has appeared. They're notified through emails that they get. I'm sure that if you subscribe to, if some of the publications that you subscribe to probably do the same thing. They have they send you an email with a provocative headline or so, and then you go to that website to read it or something like that. So that was sort of the idea that I had, was just to, just so that fire mitigation stuff does not get lost on the town website. I thought that if we could start educating people. I'll also, this wasn't in the thing, but gee, I'm kind of surprised that, David, I didn't know if this was, I really thought this was the bailiwick of one of the trustees, was to get this town meeting going on fire mitigation. And as you and I have talked about, I just don't know what the holdup is. I don't know why people are not doing anything about that now, sitting down. And what's so hard about that, to plan a town meeting for people to come and bring food and just have that same sort of excitement that Ann was talking about. I'm not saying that David should do it, but I really thought this was something the Board of Trustees was interested in doing, and I'm kind of surprised. So I guess I really would like your questions, and I'd also like your suggestions and criticisms. And things like that. So, is anybody ready?
Yeah, I want to hold back and not say too much. I really am interested in the reaction of Dan and Fred and Nate, and what their thoughts are about this concept. And is this something you want to pursue, not pursue? What are your thoughts?
I think any way to get a message out is a good thing. I mean, really, it's everything's a cost benefit analysis, right? Well, if there's not much cost to this, then that means that we only have to get a little bit of benefit to be for it to be worthwhile. So I don't know what the upfront cost of this is. Carolyn, is there a lot of cost to this, or how would you propose going about developing this?
Well, that was something I wanted to know, first of all, if there was any way we could piggyback onto anything that the town was doing. What I see the cost is, and I haven't really started yet because I wanted to sort of get everybody's approval before I did any more work on this, but no, I'd have to cost out the cost of a website designer. That would be one thing. I would look for a volunteer, either in the Springs or around. I'd put out a APB, or what do you call it, to see if there's somebody who could volunteer. That's what you would start with. And if not, then you would have to go to, paying somebody to do it. And also MailChimp, which would handle the email notifications. I think that is free. I'm not sure why, but I'm pretty sure that's what my friends use, and that it doesn't cost. So there were like a few $100s for startup costs. My services would be totally free. I mean, I wouldn't be charging anything for writing it and putting it together. So I think that the main thing is starting the website. And that's something we just can't depend on Facebook for this. It's, we could start, but I just think that for a lasting thing, we need a website.
Mind if I chime in on this?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so I'm only throwing this out because I know a few things. We don't even pay for our own website. So the state subsidizes and pays for the hosting of our current website. And I don't see a conceivable way to get the board and administration to approve a secondary website to be hosted with money. And so I would highly encourage that whatever this website is, it's hosted on the current page. And I know that's not ideal.
On the town website?
Yeah, we don't even pay for the town website, let alone a secondary website dedicated to a specific thing. So I could see that being an issue right away in terms of cost. And now it wouldn't be an issue with cost if we just hosted it as an additional page. And so something similar, the Parks, Recs, and Trails Committee has a drop-down menu box for their trail ambassador page. I could see that being something where we could post these kinds of things. But what immediately makes me a bit nervous, and I know I won't necessarily be around to deal with it, is this looks like a lot of things that town staff will have to do. And so I would push back actually on this committee and say, like, for example, gathering stories and sharing those things. Sure, town staff could post them, but town staff does not have the time to curate stories about fire mitigation and post them and share them. And that's not because we don't care about fire mitigation. It's because we don't have time for it. Like, we're so mired in so many other things on the day-to-day operations that this would easily, without a doubt, fall super low on the priority list and then fall behind. And that's not what I would want for an initiative like this right out the gate, if it was going to be successful.
Well, I'm not talking about, it didn't even enter my mind that the town staff would be writing articles and stuff like that.
Curating, Carolyn. So like, who would gather this stuff? And then at minimum, the town staff has to post it. And so that's not a big deal at all. But what I'm saying is, like, if we are in charge of curating what the content is, there's no way that's going to happen. There's not enough time for that.
Well, then that's my argument. Then that's an argument for having an independent website.
But then it wouldn't be by the town. Like, it would just be its own thing. That's where I go, like, having the stories curated by the committee is excellent, because then it's taken care of by a group of individuals rather than what I would assume the individual liaison for the fire mitigation committee. Not that it says that in here, but that oftentimes that ends up being the case. And so this isn't bad. I'm just throwing it out there because I really think that it's a great idea, but I don't want it to be one of those things where town staff prioritizes and they fall behind on it.
So,
in my mind.
is it possible that the committee could, in collaboration with Carolyn, could curate these articles? The articles would be written, and we would be given the rights to post, or, in other words, we would be given what we needed in order to post these articles. So town staff wouldn't have to do anything.
I think that would be the goal, but I don't know of any place that allows committee members to post on the official websites without having a staff member interact at any point. And so, like, I think you're talking about hosting a private Facebook or even a private website. Like, if it's town sponsored, at minimum, town staff has to be at least involved in it. They can't just not be involved in it.
How would you envision people accessing this website, or proposed or potential website? Would it be a link in the Green Mountain Falls town page?
Well, that would certainly be one way. It would be I think the way it would work is that people would subscribe for free to this website. And so they would be, that's how they would access it, because they would be a subscriber, and they would sign up for this via this group called MailChimp that does lots of, I guess, marketing, and it's a tool for business. And I think that this is a free service. This is the very lowest part of it is like a free service. I don't think my friends pay anything for it. And so anytime that a new article was to appear, the subscribers would get an email telling them that this article has appeared. If say, for example, I subscribe to Atlantic Magazine. Okay, so 2 and 3 times a week I get emails from Atlantic Magazine with a link to an article, to articles that they are running or something like that. That's what I mean. That's how you find out about these articles, unless you have the magazine in front of you. But that's what I'm aiming towards.
Is this something that can be done through the Green Mountain Falls, the existing town page?
Doesn't sound like it.
It is possible, but I think the labor involved will have to be dispersed amongst the committee. And so it is possible. It's just how much is the committee going to dedicate time to curating articles, sending them into staff? Staff is going to take time to post them and get them shared out. And I question at the end of all that, like, all of that work. And I bet you for the longest time, it will be a very low trafficked website. I mean, our town website's already hyper low traffic.
Oh, I know, but how often does the town put out an email to people notifying them that this article is, or something, this edition is just put into the website? At least this, under this suggestion, they would be notified through email that something in, and then it's their choice to either go into it or not.
We sort of already have that with I can't remember the name. I have to look it up. As I understand it, it's called the Important News
Community
section.
news.
And that not the community news one, the important news one, and that sends out alerts, but it's hardly anybody signs up for it. And
Who
so
manages
I
the
don't think
website? Who
Well, go ahead.
manages the website right now? The
Well,
town website.
I mean,
You?
so yes, and even I'm behind on things already that just get shuffled to the bottom.
What's your definition? What's your definition of curated? I'm just curious. We're bending this word around. What do you mean by curating articles?
Gathering articles to share. And so I don't see town staff having the time to research fire mitigation articles that they think are pertinent to share with the community. Again, I can't emphasize enough. It's not that they don't care about it. Just don't think they have the time for it.
So, Matt,
That's why I push back onto the committee to have them curate or gather articles.
Like I told you, it never, ever entered my mind that town staff would be doing this. That they would be coming up with it. It would be me and the fire mitigation committee doing this.
That's excellent.
Not town staff. I've got a list of articles already ready to write.
No, that's perfect. And that was my biggest concern, is managing the website isn't necessarily a labor intensive process for staff. That's why I said my biggest concern was the gathering of these articles. And I said I would prefer that the committee lead those things.
Well, we already have members of the committee that kind of specialize in their own areas of expertise. Me and Rich are the firefighters, and Nate is the GIS guy. I don't see that it would be out of the realm of possibility to have somebody as a member of the committee, or at least and even an adjunct to the committee, who would be responsible for at least periodically adding some pertinent articles to what I would envision is maybe like what the Trails Committee has, like you said, Matt. If we have within the town page the fire mitigation tab, that people then could go to that section, find out information about how to contact Cusp or how to get grants, things like that. Along with it, we could have news articles that, pertinent news articles. I could see how that could be beneficial, and hopefully, if we had somebody on the committee or a couple of us on the committee that could contribute to it. I mean, we don't necessarily have to be submitting articles to this webpage every week. I don't imagine that this is going to turn into a periodical. But if we have people that, even myself, when I run across an article that I feel like might be good, I could bring it up and we could decide if we want to put it up there. I could see that maybe being manageable.
I think that would be excellent. But it's up to you guys as volunteers if you want to do extra work or not.
So if the job if what is required of the town staff is posting the article to the website, how many hours of work is posting 1 hour or one article?
It's not a lot, but I have a feeling it won't just be one
how much
article.
time is it? How much time is it? One article, how much time is it?
Well, that's a bit of an absurd question. Of course, it's only a couple minutes, but we know it's not going to be just one article. So that's
okay.
why.
But we just got through saying we might write one once a week. It might be one every 2 weeks.
But I'm not saying written either. Curation means also gathering articles that are already.
Wait. We've already said you won't curate anything.
No.
The town staff's job will be to post the article. It will be handed to you. Here, post this. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I said at the beginning. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm in agreement with you. So
but I'm just trying to figure out what is the level of imposition or time commitment we're asking the town to take to do this. And what I'm hearing is it's maybe 30 minutes a month.
Yeah, but I agree. It could be that, but like many things, they start off as committee led and then fall on staff. And so I am very hopeful that it stays that way, but I'm not confident that it will. And that's why I'm
Okay.
being so
Well-
upfront about it now.
Okay.
Can I interject a little bit? This is Ann. And when I was a kid, they had a town newsletter. You know, we mimeographed it. And it was news, and it was just at the pantry and just here and there. And it didn't cost much. And people kind of wrote it. They walked around, they knew their neighbors, and they put news in. And that's sort of Carolyn's idea, I think. And she was talking kind of about MailChimp. You know, it'd be like a little local newspaper almost, except it'd be online. And maybe the town doesn't have to manage it at all. You just send out neighbors and say, hey, you want to receive this? It doesn't have to be sanctioned by anybody. That was what I was thinking. I think she's got a great idea.
Well, I think what needs to be decided tonight is not necessarily the mechanics, but rather the concept. Is this concept something we want to move forward as an action, as a committee, and say, this is something we believe as a committee will accomplish one of our goals, which is the education of the citizenry at large with regard to the critical issues around fire mitigation? If the answer is yes, then the next step is the implementation, the ground rules, all those kind of things. And we've heard from Matt and his concerns from the town staff standpoint. And so we as a committee need to take that into consideration and understand that in doing this, it will be the committee's responsibility to provide the content, the actual written article, the sort of what is the flow of articles, the information to be reported, all those kind of things, and essentially provide that and simply request that it be posted. So anyway, to me, that's the question tonight: is do we as a committee believe this is the concept that's been put forward by Carolyn? Is this something that we as a committee want to endorse and move forward on?
Yes. That would be my vote.
That
would be my vote.
That was Dan. Okay. That was a yes from Dan. What about Fred?
Sounds like a good idea.
Nate?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I think that as a part-time town staffer at this point, yeah, I think that it's reasonable to post some things. Fire mitigation would have to just have another page or two on there that's minimal maintenance maybe by the town, but then maybe that links to another site. But like you said, the logistics we can work out later. But just about digital, I think all the education we do should be digital. I went up to the state forest office and they're actually closed. You can't even get in there. So I don't even know. They're closed to the public. So I don't know what we talked about, paper materials and things and door hangings and stuff like that last meeting. I don't think that's really worth the time or effort. I think putting all energy into digital content is definitely the way to go.
Okay, good. That being the case, Carolyn, I think you have the committee is unanimous in the support of moving forward with the concept that you've laid out. And, I think we all want to work together with you in accomplishing that.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. And I guess that I'm going to start tomorrow, trying to find a volunteer web designer or something.
Well, let's clarify one thing, Carolyn. I believe what I heard Matt say is it's unlikely that we will get approval to spend money on a
Right.
website of our own, and we'll have to use the town
Yeah.
website. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be more of a Debbie Downer, but like, for example, one aspect of the concept says possibly hiring a graphic artist. I think that's out the window as well. Like, we got to do this as cheaply, almost next to no cost as possible. And
Oh,
my
yeah.
thought process is I'd rather spend money on cutting trees down than building sites.
Oh, yeah, I was looking really at volunteers to see if there was anything out there first.
That would be awesome, because I can't emphasize that enough. We don't even, like I said, we don't even pay for our own website, let alone doing another one.
Just remember too, Matt, that money invested in education can equal trees getting cut down.
I don't
So-
disagree with that. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Hey,
Yeah.
I was going to suggest when Carolyn writes her report on Facebook that she include what she's written here. And yeah, I think it's beautiful what you suggested. And I really do. So.
Yeah, we'll have a story. I was waiting about that. One of the pages is a story, actually, the one about the Blizzard of Embers initiative. That's sort of the first story. That sort of lays out.
That's great.
And that sort of thing. But stories will appear on Facebook, but that's a really imperfect medium. So.
But that might be a start. You might attract a lot of volunteers that way because there are people that look at it. So great. Oh, you're wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You're very kind. Very, thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments regarding the agenda item, which is the Blizzard of Embers campaign? I think we have a path forward here that everybody's in agreement on. All right, item B of new business. Sadly, Matt is departing. He's reminded me that from a parliamentary standpoint, we do need to appoint a secretary, and we do need to appoint a vice chair. So I heard some was whispered in the wind that Nate might be a good candidate for secretary.
Yes, I'm willing to volunteer to be secretary. I feel bad for having to, I guess, technically not be on the committee anymore, but I certainly want to be involved and try to help out with this. So I'll be, as I don't know if all of you know, but I'm working for the town now part-time. So that means I can't officially be on a town committee. So I'm doing the town planner role on a part-time basis, but I'm definitely willing to be the secretary. And also the good news there is that I now have access, and I've started to set up the town's GIS system so that I can do some mapping and things like that off of work hours, but still using the town's software so that all that data will essentially remain, with the town as well. So.
Okay.
Great. Wonderful.
So do we have a motion to appoint Nate Scott as our secretary?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations, Nate. And
Thanks.
You know what? I must apologize to Fred because I completely didn't do a justice to welcoming him to the committee tonight. I just jumped right into business, but we're really happy to have you, your interest in joining the committee, first of all, and becoming part of the committee. And we're looking forward to, getting to know you better and have you be part of the work that we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fred.
Very interesting.
Okay, so to the point of a vice chair, as you all may sadly remember, Dick Braden was our vice chair, and since his passing, we have done we have done nothing to appoint a new vice chair. And
David, I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought Nate was the vice chair for a little while.
I was.
oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Very memorable role, Nate.
Yeah,
Okay, so-
yeah.
So you know, one of the problems with getting older, Nate, is you have short-term memory loss. So
It's all right. No offense. No offense taken.
okay, so my bad. But the fact is, Nate's not on the committee, so we do need a vice chair. Okay. So
It's only
We
fair
have-
to nominate who is absent.
okay.
This is what you get for missing meetings.
So you know, the nomination is made for Rich. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Rich Bowman is our vice chair.
Dan gets to deliver the news.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
All right. What is item C, citizen notification of matching funds?
I think that was in relation to our earlier conversation about the Cusp grant and private fuels mitigation. So it's definitely been covered.
Okay. All right, then moving on then to item 7, reports. You know, is there anything that we need to report tonight on notification and evacuation?
Not really, other than the triage that Rich and I performed. I mean, that kind of falls under the evacuation and a little bit, I guess, but.
And I did receive obviously those. David, I don't know if you got Rich's, but he did send a document with a lot of ratings. There were quite a few on there, so I just need to. I haven't been able to put them in map form yet, but same with Dan's information. I will try to get to work on that soon.
Yes, I did get Rich's a while back, and he told me he still had some left to do. But I think Dan submitted his, and he said he was complete, right, Dan?
About 95% complete. There's a couple streets that I didn't get the addresses for them, but I know the homes, and they're all non-defendable homes.
Okay. Great. So you're going to compile that into the map then, Nate, is that correct?
Yes. Yep. I will get to work on that.
All right. Fuels mitigation, anything else there?
No, nothing. Nothing in addition to the Iona project and what we've already talked about.
Okay. Grants. I don't have anything on grants tonight. And education, I think really was the Blizzard of Embers discussion that we had, because that really is, I think, going to become our education program, along with things like community meetings, forums, town halls, using the garage at the Wallace Reserve that Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation has offered, that Adrian would come and, teach people how to do safe, creating non-flammable zones and things like that. So,
One thing I would recommend is that when we do get started on the Iona project, that we should probably take a lot of pictures, a lot of before and after pictures.
I think that's a great idea.
Get them
Um,
posted on that new Blizzards of Ember page as well and shout them out.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know that we have before pictures of the Wallace Preserve, but that would have been a really good place to do that. But since we're doing this Iona project, Adrian touched on it briefly. It's good to let people know that, hey, this is what it looked like before, and it doesn't look like a bomb went off afterwards. A lot of people think that. So,
Did I hear something about burning after that? Did you burn the property after that, a controlled burn or something?
No, I think what they were referring to was that the wood would be cut and stacked for people to pick up and use as firewood.
Uh-huh. Okay.
For local people, but
Yeah.
it can only be burned in the area. In other words, it can't be hauled off outside the area, like into
Okay.
Colorado Springs or somewhere, and to use there.
Okay.
It's only for the people of Green Mountain Falls.
yeah,
Okay.
we probably want to make sure we sign it well, saying this is for Green Mountain Falls residents only because of, the beetles and the insects in them, things like that.
Okay. Thank
But
you.
yeah, it's for firewood, not for, we're not planning any broadcast burns anytime soon, or even any pile burns.
I was going to say, anytime you have a burn, you really need to tell people about it.
Oh yeah, you're preaching to the choir, sister.
Yeah.
It's quite an ordeal to put fire on the ground, and also you really have to build a lot of social capital before you start putting smoke in the air, and people really have to trust you.
Good to know. Good to know. I have a question before we adjourn, but I'll save it till whenever.
Well, you just go right ahead, Carolyn.
Oh, well, no, this said, Matt, it's simply, who's going to be in your seat next Monday? Do you have a replacement yet?
Nobody. And that's kind of part of the reason why I'm stressed out about putting more work onto staff, because a lot of this is going to fall on Nate and Angie's shoulders.
On whose? Oh, Nate and Angie's.
Yeah. We have had discussions with a few people about doing contract work, but it's preliminary. And I mean, it took them months to get it filled when I got hired on. So I'm not entirely incredibly optimistic about the speed for this.
There's nobody retired that is interested in coming on as, just like you said, contract work. There's nobody right now.
I mean, just really one, but it's so early on in the discussions. I don't even really want to say who it is, because it's like I don't want to get people's hopes up and think that that's going to actually happen.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
no one outside of that, like no one's applied for the job. No one's done anything like that.
Well, it takes expertise. I mean, it's not somebody anybody can just walk into.
Well, I know for a fact that I'm not the best at this. So I spend most of my days like at least 2 hours researching and learning and then actually doing action, because it seems like everything, especially like fire mitigation. I didn't know anything about fire mitigation when I started this job. So a lot of that is teaching yourself what you're doing.
And now you know everything I know.
I will never say that.
Well, good luck in your job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
Matt.
you're gonna be sorely missed, for
I
real.
really appreciate it, guys. I've thoroughly enjoyed participating with you, and I love that we get fiery and passionate about this stuff because we care about it. That's what I live for when it comes to these kinds of discussions. And it's been an absolute pleasure working with you all. And I'm going to keep tabs. I don't plan on just falling off the face of the earth. And so if the evac plan or other things are things that I can help with from afar, I'm more than willing to do that. I consider you all friends. So I always have friends.
How far out east are you going?
It's like, do you know where Hill Rose, Colorado is?
Nope.
Nailed it. So that's how far east I went. So far, you don't even know where it is.
What county is that?
Morgan County.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's Hill Rose is where I'm going to be living, but I'll be working in Brush, and Brush is about an hour outside of Brighton, if that gives you a better idea.
No, not really.
All right. So an hour and 15 minutes outside of Denver on I-76 going northeast towards Nebraska.
So you're not going to have trees, but you're going to have tornadoes.
Yeah, I was already a part of a notification plan, and I did a part of a update on an emergency operations plan when I was doing my graduate internship out in Brush, and they did brand new sirens and everything, because yeah, they actually had a tornado. It was like 2 months before I even started with the city back in 2019, or no, in 2018, and it lifted a 50-foot silo off the ground and threw it like 400 feet.
Wow. You
Yeah,
know
now
what?
I know where it is. That's out going towards Sterling, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
35 miles southwest of Sterling.
I just signed up for the newsletter from that town, so I'll know what you're doing.
That's trouble right there.
That's great.
Matt, thanks for all that you've done, both in this committee and for the town of Green Mountain Falls. It's been great working with you. And
That's the
you know,
truth.
just really appreciate it.
Thank you. And likewise, David, it's been a pleasure.
Wish you well, and don't hesitate to reach out to us every now and then if we can be helped.
Likewise too. So I definitely, like I said, I don't want to fall off the face of the earth on you guys. I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff happening here and big things growing in Green Mountain Falls. And I'm sorry that I won't be around for it, but I definitely will pay attention from afar.
Good. I don't have anything else tonight, folks, other than to say thanks to all of you for your engagement. I mean, that's what I really appreciate about this group is every meeting, everybody is engaged, and you know, your passion for what we're doing shows, and I really appreciate it. I think that we've gotten a lot done. I think we've got a lot more we are going to get done. And we have a big pipeline of stuff that are ideas and things in process. So people are going to start seeing the output of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee in another month or so, when we start cutting trees and start putting out our education campaign and all those kind of good things. So thanks, and look forward to, you know, I said I was going to be in Green Mountain Falls for this meeting. Our house is still not finished. We have started setting movers to move in furniture starting September 22nd. So I'm hoping I'm going to be in Green Mountain Falls for the next meeting of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. So,
Which is going to be the 27th, correct?
Yep.
October, September 20. Oh, I'll be out there too.
Excellent. Okay. Well, maybe we can all meet together in person.
Yeah.
Have a real meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. So look forward to it. Y'all have a good rest of your evening and good week. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you. This
Thanks.
is
Thank you.
meeting.
Bye, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
Meeting adjourned. It's 8:45.